Hello, I'm Mike Bell, and welcome to this short personal development video. If you've ever done or said something in the heat of the moment and regretted it later, then this is for you, because I'm going to show you a way to avoid this happening. We're in the south of the wheel of the 8 power energies here, responsive, and in this direction we focus on the power of our emotions and how they often get us into trouble and what we can do about it. We're asking the question, are you responding or reacting in your life? And what's the difference, you might ask? Well, here's a wonderful quote from Van Gogh. He says, "Let's not forget that the little emotions are the great captains of our lives, and we obey them without realizing it." He's referring to how we tend to react to our emotions, as if on automatic. It's as if our emotions have us sometimes, rather than the other way round. Now, emotions are a natural part of who we are as humans, and they play a vital role for us. We can think of emotions as the way that the parts of our brain that are unconscious communicate with the parts of our brain that are conscious. And it's important to have a healthy and balanced relationship with our emotions if we're to access and appreciate the important information they carry and not be driven by them, although this can often seem quite difficult. We can begin to get a sense of the size of this challenge from the latest neuroscience, which tells us that we don't just have one brain, but we have at least 2, and some would argue more. But we'll keep it simple here and stay with 2. Firstly, we've got the reptilian or limbic brain. Let's call this the old brain. It evolved many millions of years ago with a capacity for survival and our basic defensive behaviors, fight, flight and freeze. We can attack if angry, run away if anxious, and become very submissive or try to hide and cover up if we're ashamed. It is also the seed of our emotions, such as anger, anxiety, disgust, joy and fun. We share these emotions with many animals, including rats, horses and monkeys. The old brain also holds our desires to be loved, cared for and respected. It is this brain that tries hard to avoid being rejected and criticized. Unfortunately, this seems to be hardwired into us, but all is not lost. Apparently about 2 million years ago, our brains evolved some new abilities. We became able to imagine and fantasize, to think, to reason, and to plan in ways that other animals can't do. We can think about the future and the kind of self we want to be, about how we feel and the life we want. We can look back with regret and ruminate about unhappy feelings. Our new brains also evolved capacities for enjoyment and happiness, for caring and for peacefulness. It would help if we learnt to use our new brain capacities to develop inner well-being and organize our minds in new ways. Developmental psychologists describe the healthy pathway to a fully formed human consciousness as a progression from the self-centered, undifferentiated, magical consciousness of the newborn child to the fully mature, inclusive and multidimensional spiritual consciousness of the wise elder. This is the journey we are on, if we choose it. So back to responding and reacting. When it comes to our emotions, our new brain gives us the capacity to not obey them without realizing. This is how our reality tends to show up for us. We sense something, we see it, hear, smell, touch or taste it. And in milliseconds, we then have an emotion, a feeling within our body. This feeling leads automatically to a thought. And finally, the thought leads to an action. Now, it seems to us as if all of this happens in one seamless flow. Something happens. For example, somebody says something that makes us feel angry, and we end up shouting at them and reacting and saying things often that inflame the situation, and before we know where we are, it's escalated beyond control. However, when we learn to slow down a little, when we're centered, we begin to notice there is a space between the thought and the action. But before you take action, there is space for another thought. You can reason. You can ask, what's the best way for me to respond right now? But if you're being driven by the emotions, you don't notice it. So when you find yourself overwhelmed by emotion and about to react, take a breath, count to 10 if you like, and decide how you will respond in the best interests of yourself and everyone else. Thank you for listening.